4 a.m., I haven't slept, and my heart is racing. My hands are sweating, and I was just about to make the biggest trade of my life. I've been watching this meme coin all night, and it just hit a major catalyst, and then boom, price explodes. And in one night, I made more than I could ever expect. And that was the beginning of my downfall. Because in that moment, I rewired my brain and I didn't even realize it. And what happened next completely destroyed my motivation. I lost my drive, my focus, and my ability to get anything done, like learn data science. If you've ever been stuck in a procrastination loop, burnout, and feeling like you can't get yourself to do the work, you might be in the same dopamine trap that I fell into. This is how I lost motivation to learn anything like data science and most things, and how I regained it back. So weeks before, I had been in one of the most high intensity trading periods of my life. For those of you who don't know, my main channel or my personal channel, it revolves around crypto and crypto trading. I wasn't just casually investing, I was glued to the charts. I was making decisions at lightning speed, feeling the rush of high risk, high reward trades. Some of them hit big and others crashed. Emotional swings were intense, and I was constantly plugged in trying to chase the next opportunity. At the time, I thought I was just in that trading zone, but I wasn't. I was overloading my dopamine system when I look back on it. Andrew Huberman and Anna Lemke talk about this exact phenomenon. When you get massive dopamine spikes, whether it's from gambling, gaming, or trading, or even just social media, your brain trains and compensates, lowering your baseline dopamine levels. This means when the high is over, everything else feels dull. Normal activities like learning data science and analytics, working, or even just having conversations feels suddenly exhausting. This is called a dopamine trough or a dopamine deficient state, a period where your brain is trying to recover from the overstimulation, leaving you unmotivated, unfocused, and emotionally drained. I've gone through this before, but this time was the most extreme I've ever experienced. After the trading intensity cooled down, I should have taken a break. But what ended up happening was I started to unconsciously chase more dopamine. What I did instead was I started to binge solo leveling, staying up till 6, 7. I didn't even sleep on one night going to work. And then I started getting into playing Marvel Rivals, which is an FPS shooter. Exciting, you get to play a hero shooter, be Marvel heroes. But I was playing until 6, 7 on a work night. My brain was chasing more stimulation because it was already in a depleted state, which is normal for being inside this trough and in this deficit state. I was looking for anything to bring my dopamine back up, more action, more highs, more engagement. And it wasn't a conscious decision. It was just my brain desperately trying to get normal again. The problem, it made things significantly worse. Instead of letting my dopamine naturally cover and go into a natural baseline, I kept artificially spiking it, leading to an even harder crash. And when you stay inside that crash and you've had more of these artificial dopamine spikes after a huge one, you stay in that state significantly longer. This was the moment that I realized I needed a dopamine detox. This wasn't some sudden revelation, it was just a slow creeping realization that something was off. I was feeling unmotivated, mildly depressed, which was jarring for me because I normally have a high happiness baseline. I've had low moments before, but this was just significantly different. And it had been a long time since I felt this way, and it was probably the only time I felt it to this significant magnitude. I wasn't just procrastinating, I just didn't want to do anything. Creating content, if you've noticed before on this channel, I genuinely enjoyed it. And you've noticed that I just haven't been creating anything for like the past few weeks. Normally, I love learning on top of this, so the idea of studying data science and upskilling, it just felt unbearable. I just didn't want to do it. It just felt pointless and it felt like a massive struggle. I've been feeling this way for a week and I needed to understand why. And here's the thing, I've studied a lot of the things on motivation. I've read most of the major books on self-development, motivation, discipline, habits. I understand a lot of these concepts on a deeper level than most people. But what frustrated me most was none of those techniques were working. Discipline, willpower, creating structured habits, none of it helped at that time. And that's when I stumbled upon Anna Lemke and Andrew Huberman's research on dopamine. That was one of the binges that was healthy for me and got me back on track because suddenly in that moment, everything made sense. And that's when I learned about dopamine, the key to my motivation, and why I lost it. Motivation doesn't come from pure discipline, it's driven by dopamine, the brain's reward and motivation chemical. Andrew Huberman explains that dopamine isn't about feeling pleasure, it's what makes us take action in the first place. Anna Lemke describes about how overloading your brain with high stimulation activity, trading, gaming, social media creates massive dopamine spikes. And the problem is your brain overcompensates by lowering your baseline dopamine levels. So it leads to that dopamine trough, a state where nothing feels interesting or enjoyable, motivation starts to disappear, even for things that you normally love, and simple tasks feel overwhelming or pointless. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had unknowingly pushed my dopamine system so hard through high intensity trading, leading into gaming and binging to nonstop stimulation that my brain had burnt out its ability to produce motivation naturally. The more I looked into it, the more that I realized I needed a dopamine detox to reset my baseline and to get my motivation back. Here's how I'm resetting my dopamine levels. I didn't go extreme. I wasn't going to sit in a dark room and meditate for hours because I couldn't get myself to take those actions. That in itself was hard at that time. But I did make strategic changes to let my dopamine naturally reset. First, no more meme coin trading for 2 weeks. I just cut it out and just didn't go back to it. I was giving my brain a break from the high intensity decision making and intensity and constant market stimulation. Two, I cut down my gaming, no more 6 a.m. binge sessions, and now I only allowed 1 hour max if I play at all. Also, watching anime and binge reading kept it to moderation. No more full season anime binges or non-stop manhwa and manga reading. Instead, I spread out the episodes and reading sessions throughout the day and after as a reward for doing work. Four, limiting email and social media checking. I'm not super active on social media, but I constantly check X, Discord, and my emails throughout the day. Cutting back on this stopped the dopamine drip feed of quick updates hits that kept me on the cycle of compulsively checking. Five, I went back to my habit of meditation. I started reintroducing 10-minute meditation sessions that focused just on my breathing. I also practiced an old exercise where I would just visualize my thoughts, sit with my thoughts as I meditated, as leaves floating down a stream or a river, just acknowledging them without holding on to them. This helped me sit with my thoughts instead of distracting myself from them and trying to look for another dopamine hit. And then six, no sugary coffee drinks or sweets. So boba, sugary coffee, desserts were how I self-soothed, but I cut them out to avoid the sugary spikes and the crashes that made my dopamine recover harder. So within a few days, I started feeling gradual improvement. I wasn't fully back, but I was getting there until out of nowhere, one moment shattered it all. I was lying on my bed trying to regain some consistency in my morning routine. I was doing a simple writing exercise, something that was supposed to bring structure back into my life. This time, my brain just locked up. But just at the fact that the one thing that I was trying to hold on to was my ability to focus, and then I started to spiral. I wasn't just frustrated, I felt completely drained. I didn't want to do anything again. I felt like I had nothing to give. When I tried to respond, my words couldn't come out right. And the simplest thing, like talking to my wife, just felt overwhelming. And when I finally was able to talk to her, she immediately knew something was off because this wasn't like me. But in that moment, it was all that I could do. That was it. In that moment, I just broke down. I cried harder than I have in years. And it was the first time in this entire dopamine trough and crash, I let everything out. At first, I saw this as a moment of weakness, like I had completely lost control. But looking back, I realized it was part of the recovery process. When you're resetting your dopamine system, there is a withdrawal phase, a period where you feel low energy, irritable, emotionally fragile. Your brain is recalibrating after weeks or months of overstimulation. I had thought I was on the path of recovery and quickly misread that I was there already or close to it. But in reality, I was still holding on to a lot of the emotions that I had just been suppressing. And I had that emotional breakdown. And the craziest part, after all of that, after all the frustration, the spiral, the shutdown, I finally felt relief. That moment wasn't a setback, but it was a turning point. So, for anyone who's going through something similar, if you've been stuck in this low motivation, struggling to learn, or feeling burnt out, it might not be laziness or the lack of willpower. You might just be in a dopamine trough. You just need to let your brain reset. So if you're stuck in this state, here are the action steps that I took for myself and that I'm continually taking for myself. And hopefully this can help you as well. Number one is going to prioritize sleep. No more sleep deprivation cycles for me. Good sleep is like a dopamine reset button. Get as much sleep as you need. Two, identify where you're being overstimulated. Is it social media, gaming, email? Find your biggest dopamine drain and take control over them and take a break from them. Three, take a short dopamine detox. Remove high intensity stimulation for 3 to 7 days and cut back on the activities that give you instant dopamine hits and let your baseline naturally reset. Four, you're gonna want to introduce some structure, but keep it low pressure. Instead of forcing yourself back into intense data science and data analytics learning, start with small, enjoyable habits, maybe 15 minutes of coding, maybe just reading an article or a little sentence, or just doing 15 minutes of your writing for your resume or your portfolio, or just any type of writing to make you feel some type of relief. Five, you're gonna want to incorporate some type of movement and mindfulness, even light exercise or short meditation sessions where you just focus on your breathing and just take a moment to rest can help regulate dopamine naturally. A simple 10-minute breathing exercise can make the world of difference. Six is stay consistent. Even when it feels boring, dopamine recovery takes time. The goal is to focus on your process, not the immediate results. Show up daily, trust the system, and let your motivation return naturally. And then seven, and most important, be patient with yourself. This is a cycle, not a one-time fix. If you slip up, it's okay. You'll go back into it. Just adjust and keep going. This entire experience made me realize that motivation isn't about pushing through and about willpower. It's about managing dopamine. If you just want some practical ways to reduce overwhelm and build momentum, I covered a few of them inside this video. Too overwhelmed to start? Try this when trying to become a data analyst. In that video, I break down simple exercises that you can start using today to quiet mental noise, manage stress, and move forward even when everything feels overwhelming. So click on that and let's take the next step together.